The thing I miss most about my dad is that he will always say goodnight to me, and he's not there to do that anymore. The thing that I want to see the people that treated my dad badly is that to learn a lesson, because they were hurting my dad because they didn't give him his medicine. He got sick, and that's why he had to go to a hospital. I think my dad will be proud of me if I will follow my dreams to be a doctor and be a better person.
In the United States, prison officials are obligated under the 8th Amendment to provide prisoners with adequate medical care. This principle applies regardless of whether the medical care is provided by governmental employees or by private medical staff under contract with the government. Inmates have a right to health care under the 8th Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It is not a right to the best possible health care, but it is a right to at least that level of health care that a civilized society would think necessary. Tragically, many inmates have long been denied even that minimal level of medical and mental health care, with consequences that have been serious and often fatal. Inmates are forced to wait months or years for medically necessary appointments and examinations, and many receive inadequate medical care in substandard facilities. Serious mentally ill inmates languish in horrific conditions without access to necessary mental health care, raising the acuity of mental illness throughout the system and increasing the risk of inmate suicide. A significant number of inmates have died as a result of the failure to provide constitutionally adequate medical care. Today, the Insider Exclusive Investigative News Team goes behind the headlines in Justice in America, Delfino Garcia'S story, to examine one such death of Delfino Garcia, who was a hard-working family man and who was arrested for an alleged offense in a small rural community approximately 1 hour drive northeast of Dallas called Bonham, Texas. And while in custody at the Fannin County Jail, he immediately informed the jail authorities of his urgent need to check his blood sugar and his need for medication. Delfino was an insulin-dependent diabetic. The jail officials denied Delfino his medication repeatedly. Delfino began begging for his medication, but despite the jail's knowledge of the consequences of him not taking it, his jailers refused to give it to him. On February 2nd or 3rd, 2011, all that changed when the Fannin jail officials found Delfino Garcia unconscious in his jail cell and were unable to revive him. He was then transported to the Texoma Medical Center, where he was placed in intensive care. However, at this point, the 15 days without his medication had done irreparable damage, which led to his death on June 26, 2011. Sean Majerad's firm, Majerad and Abusad, is now representing Delfino Garcia's wife and 4 children in a federal lawsuit against the county, the sheriff, and the community education centers. The main point of this lawsuit is that these 3 defendants deliberately violated Delfino Garcia's civil rights by withholding his medication and not allowing him to seek the necessary medication attention that would have saved his life. In the United States Bill of Rights, under Section 1983 of the 8th Amendment, the government is required to provide adequate medical treatment for prisons. However, this was obviously not provided for Delfino Garcia. Additionally, Delfino Garcia was not given his right to due process and basically given a death penalty without a fair trial. In this special network TV investigation, Sean Majerad will provide the Insider Exclusive News Team and our viewers answers to important issues like, what does deliberate indifference to serious medical needs mean? And what kind of adequate health care is covered under the 8th Amendment? Sean Majerad has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Dallas, in Texas, and in the nation. He has seen many innocent and hardworking people become victims of law enforcement. He understands that law enforcement abuses are some of the most serious, enduring, and divisive human rights violations in the United States. The problem is not just in Dallas, but nationwide, and his nature is institutionalized. And because of that, he is driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. His goals? Not only to get justice for his clients, but to make sure that everyone is treated with equal respect and dignity as guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. Sean has built a substantial reputation by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. His amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide his clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Dallas, Texas. It is my great pleasure to introduce Sean Majerard to the show. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate me having you over here.
Tell our audience a little bit about your firm. What type of law does your law firm practice?
Our law firm is a litigation boutique. We have 14 attorneys here. There's 3 partners, me, Mr. Abu Saad, and Mr. Saeed. And basically, we do a lot of litigation work. Our firm had the honor of being named as the second most winning law firm in the state of Texas for the jury trials. And we are very excited about that.
Just curious, how many jury trials did you win last year?
We go anywhere from 4 to about 18 a year.
Wow.
So jury trials on those. Now, there's a lot more trials involved in that, but those are the ones that gets registered.
Today we're here talking about a wrongful death 1983 lawsuit on behalf of Delfino Garcia. Tell our audience a little bit about who Delfino was.
Mr. Delfino Garcia was a 42-year-old man that was basically in the regular business. He made about $30,000, $40,000 a year with a family, 4 kids. And he was picked up as a part of a drug ring, which he was found, the charges were dropped against him. And he was taken to Fannin County Jail. Mr. Delfino had worked hard all his life. I've known him for many, many years. I knew him for many, many years. And his family came to us and asked us to see if we could look into the case, and that's why we are here today.
So he got arrested, and what happened after he was arrested?
He got arrested on January 19, 2011. Mr. Delfino Garcia was a diabetic man. When he went to Fannin County Jail, he told everybody about his condition. And for 15 days from that day, they did not provide him any of his insulin.
They denied it, right?
They denied it.
Yeah.
Simply denied it.
And as a result of that, he died.
Correct.
Several months later.
What happened was his body deteriorated and his inside organs basically shut down. And within a few months, he died.
Now, this case is still pending. You just filed this. Well, you filed it last year, right?
Yeah, we filed it this year, actually.
Okay, but it's still pending.
Yes, it's an Eastern District Court in Northern Texas.
Okay, what are some of the legal challenges and the strategies that you're going to use to try and win this case on behalf of his family?
1983 cases are a little bit tricky. What happens is it's not a simple negligence, and it's a higher burden. You have to prove that all these conducts of the tortfeasors, the actors on this case, were done with deliberate indifference. And that's the challenge that you have to go through. Of course, everybody who you sue on the governmental entity side, they have immunity. And this is one of those cases. So
it's a high standard.
They're very high standard, very high standard.
But you have to show that even though they have immunity, they still have a reasonable responsibility to take care of inmates, correct?
Definitely. It's actually what happens is they have immunity for performing their daily activities and jobs.
Right.
For example, if something minor negligent occurs, they're not going to get sued.
Right.
However, if they are breaking the law, the procedures that they have, and they're doing it with deliberate indifference, and that's the key word that's used with the Supreme Court, then they will have liability to the person who has been damaged.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people, when they're watching a show like this, say, "Whoa, the guy was arrested, but he's not guilty."
Yes, he was not found.
Innocent people have been arrested.
Correct.
So the question is, do inmates have the right to health care?
Of course, of course.
And it's guaranteed by
what?
It's
guaranteed under the U.S. Constitution. There's a case came out many moons ago, and there's a series of cases after that, Estelle versus Gamble, and that basically stated that as an inmate in prison, you are entitled to the basic, reasonable medical care. And now they're not talking about, having 50 doctors fly in, but reasonable medical care.
Yeah.
And on this case, you're talking about somebody who is diabetic, has to take medication on a daily basis. And if they don't do it, they don't give the medication, what's going to happen is they're going to have dire effects.
Yes.
And in this case, we had it, unfortunately.
Now, Delfino left behind 4 children.
Yes, sir.
And he has 3 daughters and a son?
Yes, he has 3 daughters, 1 from the first marriage and 3 from the second marriage, and 1 son, Delfino Jr., DJ as we call him.
And they're very devastated, obviously.
It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
It's
and you knew Delfino for 20 years, didn't
Yes, I've known Delfino and his family for years. We used to wait tables, and we come from the background of working the restaurant business.
Right.
And that's where I know the family from and everybody else that hangs around with the Delfino family.
Today, we are fortunate to have his oldest daughter here, Emily.
Emily, yes, sir.
So we're going to bring her on right now. It's my great pleasure to introduce Emily Garcia to the show. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you.
You are your father's oldest child, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
You are 17 years old? Is that correct?
Yes.
And tell our audience a little bit about your dad. What kind of father was he?
He was a really good father. He was nice. He was a mom and dad to me. He was always there. He would always just try his hardest for us to be happy.
He was around, enjoyed a lot of activities with you guys, right? What are some of your favorite memories of him?
For my quinceañera, for some reason, girls always cry when they dance with their dad, and I remember, I whispered into my dad, no, we're not gonna do none of that, and we were just laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
And there was no tears.
That was a good time for you.
Yes,
huh?
I will always remember that.
When you found out, first of all, when you found out your dad had been arrested, what did you think about that?
I was, at that time, it was all weird because my stepmom sent me to a church, something about church, and I had to spend the night. And I think it was I really don't remember what it was, but it was we had to go somewhere and they would tell us, teach us more about God and everything.
Yeah.
And it was weird because out of the nowhere she decides to do that. And I come back and I'm in the car when she picks me up and she's talking to my dad on the phone and she said, no, she still doesn't know. As soon as she said that, I started crying because I was I thought he was in the hospital because he was he had diabetes and he would go to the hospital. And I guess he has to talk to me, and when he talked to me, he's like, I'm in jail. And I started crying. I kept on asking why. He never wanted to answer my question. And he kind of got mad and just told me to go back to my stepmom. I left, and I left with one of my friends. I was just so heartbroken.
When you found out he had gone to the hospital from the jail, you were probably pretty worried about that, right?
Yes.
And take us back to that day when you found out that your dad had passed on at the hospital. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Do you remember that day?
Well, yes, because I was with my mom. We were at the store when my stepmom called. At that time, me and my stepmom did not have a good relationship. We never did when my dad was still here. It all happened now that we have a good relationship after my dad's death. And I was at the store with my mom, and I get the call from my stepmom saying that my dad's in the hospital, and they told her that he was really bad. And of course, I started crying because that's
that was like mom and dad to me, because I went through some things when I was little with my mom and dad. And when I came to see him, like, he looked so different. Like, if it wasn't even my dad, like, he was skinny, like, bony. It was...
Yeah.
I was going through so much at that time.
Right now, we're on national TV, and Sean, your family's lawyer, is representing your family in a 1983 wrongful death suit against the people who did not take care of him when they should have. So if you would say to, imagine talking to the entire world right now, say to us, what do you think should be done to his jailers, the people who caused this, and what do you think justice should, what is the right type of justice that should be done in your father's case?
I just don't want other people to go through the same thing that my dad went through. I don't think nobody deserves their dad or mom or a family member just get taken away because of their fault. Yeah. I mean, if they did something wrong, okay, they're paying jail time, but they have no rights to treat them like how they treated my dad.
Yeah.
He didn't, like, deserve to die.
Yeah. How has your life changed since your dad's passing?
It changed a lot, because I don't even have, like, anybody. Like, I have a lot of arguments with my mom, and it's not good, like, at all. And the only person I would have was my dad, and, like, I have nobody to call anymore. Like, nobody's there. Like, when I would need something, I would just call my dad and he would come pick me up. And with my mom, like, I can't even ask for nothing. That's why I work. I didn't even have to work when my dad was here, because I can't ask my mom for money for anything. Like, it's just awkward.
You do have Sean, who's representing your family, and he, you know, we talked before the show, and he believes in your dad's case, and he's going to see that justice is done. And even if he's just a lawyer, he's also a human being. And he knew your dad for 20 years. So I want to thank you very much for being on this show. And we wish that his lawsuit on behalf of your family is successful. It is my great pleasure to introduce Delfino's other daughter, Hema. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about what are your favorite memories about your dad?
That he used to take us like a lot of places that like we wanted to. Mm-hmm. He was very nice with us.
You had a lot of fun with him.
Yes.
Yeah. You're aware that Sean and his law firm right now is representing your family because the jail officials did not do the right thing, right?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that they were hurting my dad because they didn't give him his medicine. Mm-hmm. He was sick, all this stuff. And they just didn't give him his medicine. Mm-hmm.
How has your dad's passing changed your life? What has changed in the last year?
Well, I miss him a lot. I got my mom. That's it. I got my dad. He passed away. Mm-hmm. And I just miss him a lot. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you very much for spending time with us. Sean, one of the reasons we do these shows is to show America how lawyers like yourself take on cases that you do not charge the clients up front. You only earn money, if you will, if you win the case. So for you to spend money and your time, you really have to believe in it. And this is that kind of case, isn't it?
It definitely is. This kind of case, what we are dealing with on the 1983 case, the prison, Phantom County Jail, was run by a private company. Mm-hmm. So taxpayers pay money for these private organizations to come forward and take care of the inmates.
Yeah.
We have rules, we have laws, we have regulations.
And they have to follow them.
Exactly.
Whether they're government employees or contractors to the government, right?
Perfect, exactly. What happens with these private entities that we have seen on this case, they're taking shortcuts.
Yeah.
At the day's end, they're taking shortcuts in order to maximize their profits.
And the shortcuts are costing people's lives, like Delfino Garcia.
Exactly.
Where to now for the case? What's the status?
What's going to happen with this case? The next step is going to be the qualified immunity fight. What's going to happen is these private organizations, under the law, they're afforded some immunity. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be arguing that as a public actor or performing public job, they're immune from these kind of lawsuits. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be our next challenge to overcome that.
But that brings up that word deliberate, the clause deliberate indifference, right?
Exactly.
Meeting a standard of care that's required, and if you don't, then that's negligent, right?
Perfect example, statement on that. What happens is, as if you are in prison, if you are jailed at the custody of some governmental institution, you are supposed to, if you're asked for medical help, you're supposed to be provided reasonable medical care.
Yeah.
And in this case, we did not have that. Day after day after day, for 15 days straight,
right.
Mr. Garcia asked for help. For 15 days, multiple times per day, he asked for it. And his communications with his wife, one of the things said that actually brought this case to my office, and I said, we have to take this. Mr. Garcia told his wife that he was treated worse than a dog. Mm-hmm. Now, my clients are Hispanic descent.
Yeah.
They come from Mexico. In America, when we say treated worse than a dog, it has a different meaning as a third world country as how they treat their dogs.
Yeah.
It's a standard below that.
Right.
And that right there is what the problem with this organization is.
Please keep us posted on what happens on this case, because we want to follow up on it. And we thank you very much for being on this show.
Thank you very much for having me here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.